Philippines is set to boost its maritime defense with France's help. A new program for 40 patrol vessels shows Manila is no longer alone in the West Philippine Sea crisis. This deal with French shipbuilder OCEA goes beyond just getting boats. It strengthens a strategic partnership and shifts the Philippines' maritime stance. As tensions with China rise in the South China Sea, these fast patrol crafts will provide the PCG with the speed and flexibility needed to protect Filipino fishermen and territorial waters. The agreement signals a strong alignment. France is expanding its presence in the Indo-Pacific, while the Philippines is ramping up its defense. Regional allies are also coming together against coercion at sea. With half of the vessels to be built locally, the deal will boost the Philippines' shipbuilding industry. It will create jobs, transfer technology, and strengthen long-term defense capabilities. This move shows Manila is building its capacity, forming alliances, and resisting isolation amid China's growing influence. However, this moment brings expectations. The vessels must be integrated into strategy and joint operations, not just shown off. Their success depends on readiness, coordination, and political will. One thing is clear, the Philippines won't just endure anymore. With France's support, it is choosing to stand firm, build, and navigate its own path in the Indo-Pacific, defending its waters with strategy and purpose. The agreement became official on 23 May 2025. The Philippine Coast Guard signed a landmark contract with the French shipbuilder OCEA. This deal includes 40 fast patrol craft, each about 35 meters long. It is one of the largest surface asset deals by the PCG. The goal is to boost law enforcement, search and rescue, and maritime security in contested waters. The project is valued at around 400 to 406 million euros, or about 25 to 26 billion Philippines pesos. It will be financed through French Official Development Assistance, ODA. This setup eases the financial burden on the Philippines. It also shows that France is investing in a long-term maritime partnership, not just selling ships. This deal combines diplomacy, defense cooperation, and industrial collaboration. A key feature of the agreement is its local shipbuilding component. Of the 40 vessels, 20 will be built in the Philippines with French technical support and technology transfer. This program will expand the fleet and revive local industry. It will also upskill Filipino workers and modernize domestic shipyards, paving the way for future self-reliance. The vessels will be based on OCEA's FPB 110 Mk2 design. These patrol craft are fast, agile, and made of aluminum. They can reach speeds up to 35 knots and have a range of about 700 nautical miles. These traits make them ideal for interdiction, sovereignty patrols, and rapid response missions in the West Philippine Sea and Philippine EEZ. Their size and speed are perfect for operations where presence and reaction time matter most. The contract includes integrated logistics support, ILS, crew training, and possibly a local maintenance hub. OCEA aims to be a long-term partner, helping the PCG maintain readiness and reliability once the patrol craft arrive. This deal comes at a time when the South China Sea is one of the world's most tense maritime areas. Scarborough Shoal, the Spratly Islands, and parts of the West Philippine Sea are contested daily. Coast Guard blockades, militia swarms, and aggressive Chinese patrols make this clear. For Manila, having patrols is essential. It's key to sovereignty. Adding 40 fast patrol craft boosts the Philippines' ability to keep watch, assert rights, and respond swiftly to incidents that can escalate quickly. In these contested waters, the first country to arrive and stay shapes the story, enforces the law, and gains legitimacy. This change aligns with a broader shift in Philippine maritime security. For years, the PCG focused on domestic tasks like coastal monitoring, anti-smuggling, search and rescue, and disaster response. However, as external threats grew, the Philippines shifted toward maritime awareness, territorial defense, and enforcing rules beyond its coastline, especially in its exclusive economic zone, EEZ. The patrol craft fleet is vital to this change. While bigger warships deter, fast patrol craft are persistent. They chase, document, intercept, and hold their ground in the gray zone where most modern maritime conflicts occur. At the same time, this deal marks a strategic move by France, which is expanding its role in the Indo-Pacific. With territories like New Caledonia and French Polynesia, France is already a significant player in the region. Supporting the Philippines helps uphold freedom of navigation, counter unilateral expansion and reinforce a rules-based order at sea. Paris recognizes the Indo-Pacific as the new geopolitical center. Assisting Manila benefits both principle and interest. It strengthens an ally, balances China, and enhances France's influence in Asian security matters. Finally, the Patrolcraft Agreement aims not just for defense, but also for building domestic capacity. By constructing half of the vessels in Philippine shipyards, the deal boosts the country's stagnant maritime industry. This creates Filipino jobs, develops local skills, and revives the build-from-within philosophy. It ensures the Philippines is not just a buyer of security, but a builder of it, merging foreign partnerships with national industrial growth. The partnership between Manila and Paris has a strong foundation. It began with the PCG's acquisition of the BRP Gabriela Salang, an offshore patrol vessel built by OCEA in France. This ship has proven that French-built vessels can operate effectively in Philippine waters. The successful experience built trust. France delivered reliable performance, and the Philippines recognized the value of European engineering for its maritime future. Now, the new 40-vessel agreement marks a significant change. It shifts from isolated purchases to structured capability building. What started as one successful delivery is evolving into an industrial partnership, a fleet program, and possibly a multi-decade modernization effort. Instead of buying ships one by one from various suppliers, Manila is creating a unified, French-backed patrol fleet. This enables shared training, maintenance, and logistics, which strengthens the Coast Guard force. This relationship extends beyond just patrol vessels. France aims to support the Philippines in maritime safety systems, coastal monitoring, local shipyard development, and logistics hubs. This cooperation suggests a broader goal. France is not only selling ships, but also helping build capacity in the Philippines, boosting industry and infrastructure. Over time, this could enhance local shipbuilding, improve maritime standards, and position the Philippines as a stronger maritime state in Southeast Asia. Symbolically, this partnership holds strategic importance. As China asserts pressure in the West Philippine Sea, a major Western naval power backing Philippine maritime security sends a message of solidarity. For Manila, this offers diplomatic leverage. For Beijing, it serves as a reminder that the Philippines is not alone. For the region, it demonstrates that Europe is actively engaging in the Indo-Pacific, not merely observing, but participating. The arrival of 40 new fast patrol craft will quickly change the Philippine Coast Guard's response capabilities. These boats can travel up to 35 knots, allowing the PCG to cover larger areas more quickly, especially in tense regions like the West Philippine Sea. Currently, when Chinese vessels harass Filipino fishermen, response teams often arrive after the situation escalates. With faster boats, the Philippines can respond sooner, enforce its presence, and intervene more effectively. These vessels offer flexibility for various missions, which is vital in a country facing both foreign and domestic maritime challenges. The fast patrol craft can switch between law enforcement, anti-smuggling, search and rescue, disaster response, and maritime surveillance as needed. In Philippine waters, where crises range from typhoons to territorial disputes, a platform that can adapt quickly is a significant advantage. Operationally, the new 35-meter ships improve the PCG's force mix, bridging the gap between small coastal boats and larger offshore patrol vessels from Japan and France. Previously, the PCG had to deploy larger ships for minor incidents, which was inefficient and costly. Now, the Coast Guard can match the right vessel to each mission. Fast patrol craft for quick interdictions and larger OPVs for longer missions. This layered fleet approach aligns with how advanced maritime forces operate, bringing the Philippines closer to that standard. With half the fleet built locally, the impact goes beyond patrol missions. Local construction allows for easier maintenance, quicker repairs, and less reliance on foreign shipyards. This is crucial since a ship is only useful when it's at sea. Localizing maintenance and logistics enhances operational readiness and develops Filipino shipyard skills, enabling the country to support and eventually produce more vessels at home. Strategically, these boats can be deployed to Scarborough Shoal, Ayungin Shoal, and other tense areas in the West Philippine Sea, providing the Philippines with constant visibility and quick response capabilities in waters dominated by China. While a patrol craft may not deter a superpower, it can document, challenge, shadow, intercept, and maintain a presence, buying time for diplomatic, legal, or military actions. In the current gray zone environment, speed, presence, and persistence are crucial, and these boats offer all three. Beijing will not overlook the meaning behind France supplying 40 fast patrol craft to the Philippines. As Western and European involvement grows in Manila's maritime security, China will respond in various ways. First, expect diplomatic protest and sharp statements from Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This will likely be paired with increased gray zone activities at sea. More Coast Guard patrols, militia swarming Filipino fishermen, and a rise in bumping, blocking, and harassment near contested areas like Scarborough Shoal and Ayungin Shoal. China aims to show that while foreign ships may come and go, its vessels will remain unchallenged. The message to Beijing is clear. The Philippines is no longer isolated. The fast patrol craft deal is more than just a purchase. It signals that alliances matter. Manila is bolstering its capabilities with support beyond traditional U.S. help. This complicates China's strategy. Instead of just targeting the Philippines, Beijing now faces a growing network of allies, including France, Japan, Australia, and the U.S., all boosting Manila's presence and resilience at sea. Regionally, the effects will ripple across Southeast Asia. Countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia will watch Manila's advancements. They will see that outside middle powers are willing to invest in counterbalancing efforts. France's involvement sends a strong message. China's maritime dominance is not accepted as a given, and even European countries support a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific. This could encourage ASEAN states that have been hesitant to act independently. However, the Philippines must ensure these 40 vessels become operational assets, not just symbolic trophies. This requires more than just hulls. It needs strategy, training, rules of engagement, data sharing, and a consistent presence. Skilled operators must crew these ships, guided by clear authority and supported by joint intelligence and legal frameworks. Without this, capability becomes superficial. Ultimately, the true strategic value of this partnership will be judged not by the hardware, but by ongoing use, operational strategy, and interoperability with allies. If the Philippines institutionalizes these elements, the patrol craft will aid in long-term deterrence, not just short-term headlines. In the Indo-Pacific, where persistence is as crucial as power, sustained presence at sea will reshape the balance.
What makes this deal especially important for the Philippines is not just the number of patrol craft, but where they will be built. Half of the 40 vessels will be constructed in local shipyards. This turns the agreement into more than a security project. It becomes an industrial transformation effort. With the technology transfer provisions, Filipino engineers, welders, naval architects, and maritime technicians will learn modern shipbuilding techniques, advanced fabrication standards, and European-level quality control processes. This knowledge will stay in the Philippines and grow over time. This approach creates immediate economic value and long-term capability. Local construction will create jobs, revitalize coastal industrial zones, and strengthen smaller maritime suppliers. It also aligns with the country's goal of reviving its proud shipbuilding tradition. The Philippines has always been a nation of seafarers and shipyard workers. This deal connects to that history and brings it into a modern security context. Each vessel built locally means paychecks, expertise, and pride instead of money going overseas. More importantly, the project lays the groundwork for a future defense industrial base. Today, these fast patrol craft may use French blueprints, but tomorrow, the Philippines could design and produce its own coastal patrol assets, logistics craft, or unmanned surface vessels. This is how maritime nations become self-reliant, by building capacity, not dependence. The mindset of early Filipino shipbuilders, Ginagawa natin dito, gawaning Pilipino, para sa Pilipino, can return in a serious, modern way. Yet ambition comes with challenges. Local shipbuilding will need skilled labor, reliable supply chains, and technical oversight. Traditional craftsmanship must now work alongside precision machining and digital shipyard tools. The Philippine maritime workforce will need upskilling and support to meet international standards. If these challenges can be overcome, the payoff will be huge. A self-sustaining maritime capability backed by an industry that can build, maintain, and eventually design the nation's own ships. Despite clear benefits,
the France-Philippines patrol craft agreement has risks. The first challenge is time. Even with strong support, big fleet programs take years. Construction, sea trials, crew training, and logistics must align before a vessel can operate well. If tensions in the West Philippine Sea rise quickly, the Philippines may need ships sooner than they arrive. The second concern is sustainment. Buying ships is just the start. Maintaining, crewing, fueling, and upgrading them over the years adds real costs. A fleet's strength depends on its readiness. Without steady budgets for spare parts, dock time, crew recruitment, and training, even new vessels can become useless. The Philippines must ensure long-term sustainment plans match the scale of acquisition to avoid weakening its capability. Third, operational scope must be realistic. These 35-meter craft are fast and versatile, but they aren't blue water combatants. They have limits in range, endurance, and survivability, preventing them from replacing larger patrol vessels or warships. Their strength is in quick response and steady maritime presence, not major sea control. Without complementary assets like drones and naval escorts, their impact will be limited. The fourth challenge is interoperability and command integration. To be effective, these patrol craft must work well with the Philippine Coast Guard, PCG, Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, local agencies, and allied fleets. This needs unified doctrines, shared communication, joint command protocols, and clear rules of engagement. Without integration, patrol boats may operate alone, reducing their effectiveness in gray zone encounters. Finally, the Philippines must balance its growing partnerships. France is a strong ally, but Manila must also manage ties with the US, Japan, Australia, and others, while considering Beijing's reactions. The goal is to strengthen deterrence without causing escalation, and to build alliances without losing strategic autonomy. The true test of this historic France-Philippines deal will unfold not in the signing room, but in the months and years that follow. The first milestone will be delivery and construction timelines, with 20 vessels expected to roll out of French shipyards before local production ramps up in the Philippines. How quickly the Philippines can absorb and deploy these first hulls, and how efficiently local shipbuilding can follow, will reveal whether the nation is ready to sustain a fleet of this size. Much attention will also be on where these vessels are based. The world will be watching if Manila chooses to permanently station units in the West Philippine Sea, placing them directly in China's shadow, and signaling an unambiguous commitment to defend its waters. The next question lies in training, doctrine, and operational integration. The Philippine Coast Guard must now decide how these craft will fit into daily patrol rhythms, joint missions with the AFP, and even disaster response operations. Will they run standard routes, shadow Chinese vessels, escort Filipino fishermen, or conduct rapid response drills? Their success will depend on how quickly crews master high-tempo deployments and how well they can coordinate through unified rules of engagement and joint command networks. Meanwhile, eyes will be on the shipyard ecosystem at home, whether OCEA's technology transfer will birth a truly modern local facility and which Filipino companies will rise to support this maritime industrial chain. Beyond the shipyards and deployments lies the larger strategic picture. Observers will be watching whether this partnership opens the door to further French-Philippine cooperation, from larger offshore vessels and sensor networks to maritime domain awareness systems that plug directly into a wider allied architecture. China's reaction will also shape the narrative, either through heightened patrols, diplomatic pressure, or sharper propaganda responses. And across Southeast Asia, regional states will quietly assess whether Manila's bold move with France becomes a model to follow. In that sense, this deal is more than a procurement. It is a regional experiment that could influence how ASEAN balances China with extra-regional partners in the years ahead. The 40-craft agreement with France's OCEA represents far more than an exchange of ships and signatures. It is a strategic wager, an effort to strengthen the Philippine Coast Guard, diversify alliances, revive domestic shipbuilding, and reinforce sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea. Just as rivers carved the archipelago across centuries, the currents of geopolitics, deterrence, and maritime tradition are now shaping a new era of Philippine statecraft at sea. Manila is restoring an old instinct, maritime vigilance, but this time with modern partners, modern tools, and modern stakes. The symbolism is profound. Instead of remaining reactive in the West Philippine Sea, the Philippines is choosing to build, prepare, and position, refusing to be merely a spectator in its own waters. France has offered not just hardware, but a toolkit of skills, technology, and partnership. The sails are being raised, the tools are on the table, and the opportunity is real. Whether this moment becomes a turning point or a footnote will depend on what Manila does next, how it trains, how it integrates, how it sustains, and how it stands firm. In a region where the contest for the sea grows sharper each year, one truth is clear. The Philippines is no longer content to drift with the tide. It is choosing to steer. And with France now alongside it on the horizon, the next chapter of Indo-Pacific security is already being written. Wave by wave, vessel by vessel, and partnership by partnership.
If you like the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues. The latest news out of Asia's maritime frontlines raises a simple but powerful question. What changes when a country stops talking about maritime security and starts receiving ships that can actually enforce it? Japan has just committed to providing 5 additional 97-meter Teresa Magbanua-class patrol vessels to the Philippine Coast Guard, turning a long-running partnership into a tangible shift at sea. This is not a ceremonial gesture. It is steel in the water, endurance on patrol, and presence where pressure has been constant. Think of it this way. For years, the Philippines has been asked to stand firm in contested waters with limited offshore assets, often facing larger and more numerous foreign vessels. 2 large patrol ships were never going to be enough for a country with one of the world's longest coastlines and some of the region's most sensitive sea lanes. With this Phase 3 expansion of the Maritime Safety Capability Improvement Project, financed primarily through the Japan International Cooperation Agency, Manila's fleet of Teresa Magbanua-class vessels jumps from 2 to 7, with deliveries expected between 2027 and 2028. That changes patrol tempo, response time, and credibility overnight. What makes this moment stand out is the strategic context. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, in talks with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., framed the move as more than capacity building. It is about ensuring that maritime rules are enforced by states that actually sail the waters they claim responsibility for. Unlike short-term donations or symbolic port calls, these vessels are purpose-built for long endurance, law enforcement presence, and sustained operations in rough seas. This is quiet, methodical power projection, the kind Japan prefers and understands. Now compare this with how other countries in Southeast Asia are upgrading their maritime forces. Vietnam and Indonesia are expanding Coast Guard fleets, but often through mixed procurement and slower timelines. Smaller ASEAN states still rely heavily on aging platforms or limited offshore reach. Against that backdrop, the Philippines is suddenly leapfrogging into a different category of maritime enforcement. Not through escalation, but through persistence. Seven large offshore patrol vessels mean continuous coverage, rotation without gaps, and the ability to show up consistently rather than episodically. At its core, this is why the news matters. Ships do not shout, they do not issue statements. They simply arrive, patrol, and stay. And in today's Indo-Pacific, staying power is a strategy. Japan's move signals that it understands this reality and that it is willing to help the Philippines meet pressure at sea with presence, professionalism, and permanence. At the center of this expansion is a ship design that quietly does a lot of heavy lifting.
the Teresa Magbanua class. These are not symbolic hulls meant for photo ops. They are 97-meter multi-role response vessels engineered for long, grinding patrols. Exactly the kind of missions the Philippine Coast Guard is being forced to run more frequently in today's maritime environment. Based on Japan Coast Guard Kunigami-class designs, but tailored for Philippine conditions, these ships reflect a philosophy Japan has refined for decades. Endurance first, reliability always. The numbers explain why these vessels matter. At roughly 97 meters in length and 2,260 gross tons, they sit firmly in the large offshore patrol category.
With a range exceeding 4,000 nautical miles and more than 15 days of endurance at sea, they are built to stay on station without constant port calls. A top speed of around 24 knots allows them to respond quickly when needed, but their real advantage is persistence, being present day after day, week after week, in waters where absence is often interpreted as weakness. Operationally, this class is designed for the full spectrum of Coast Guard missions. They support search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, logistics and resupply, and humanitarian assistance, often simultaneously. That versatility matters for a country like the Philippines, where a single patrol can involve disaster response one week and sovereignty enforcement the next. These ships are not about escalation. They are about control, continuity, and professional presence. Crucially, this is not an untested platform. The first two vessels, BRP Teresa Magbanua, MRRV 9701, and BRP Melchora Aquino, MRRV 9702, are already active with the Philippine Coast Guard. They have taken part in sustained offshore patrols and joint exercises, proving that the design works under real operational pressure, not just in trials or calm seas. Their performance has effectively validated the class and paved the way for the additional 5 hulls. These ships represent something bigger than specifications. They signal a shift from reactive deployments to continuous maritime governance. With 7 Teresa Magbanua-class vessels in service, the Philippine Coast Guard gains not just more ships, but the ability to rotate patrols, maintain presence without fatigue, and respond to crises without leaving gaps elsewhere. In today's Indo-Pacific, that kind of quiet, durable capability is exactly what shapes outcomes at sea. The defense relationship between Japan and the Philippines did not emerge overnight. It has been built patiently, deal by deal, year by year, with a clear focus on maritime security. Since 2013, the Maritime Safety Capability Improvement Project alone has delivered 12 Japanese-built patrol vessels to the Philippine Coast Guard, quietly transforming it from a lightly equipped service into a force capable of sustained offshore operations. Few partnerships in Southeast Asia have produced such concrete, operational outcomes over such a long period. What makes this partnership stand out is its depth. Japan is not only supplying ships, it is also the Philippines' largest bilateral official development assistance partner, blending development finance with strategic security goals. This approach reflects Japan's traditional strength: long-term capacity building rather than short-term signaling. Each vessel, training program, or system upgrade is designed to last decades, not news cycles. Beyond patrol vessels, cooperation now spans crew training, maritime radar systems, information sharing, and regular joint exercises. These are not add-ons, they are force multipliers. Training ensures platforms are used to their full potential. Radar systems extend maritime domain awareness, and exercises build habits of coordination that matter during real-world incidents. Together, they point to growing defense interconnectivity, where Japanese and Philippine maritime forces increasingly operate with shared standards and expectations.
In practical terms, this means Japan is no longer just a donor, it is a strategic enabler of Philippine maritime security. And in a region where pressure is applied incrementally and persistently, that kind of steady institutional support may prove more decisive than any single headline-grabbing deployment.
Before the latest commitment of 5 new vessels, Japan had already reshaped the operational backbone of the Philippine Coast Guard through a carefully sequenced transfer of patrol ships. The first wave came with 10 44-meter Parola-class multi-role response vessels, which filled a long-standing gap in nearshore and mid-range patrol capability. These ships gave the PCG speed, flexibility, and the ability to respond quickly to maritime incidents that previously stretched its limited resources. The second, and far more consequential step, was the delivery of 2 97-meter Teresa Magbanua-class large patrol vessels. These ships pushed the PCG decisively into the offshore domain. With long endurance, greater seakeeping, and the ability to remain deployed for weeks at a time, they enabled sustained patrols deep inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, where visibility and presence matter most. For the first time, the PCG could maintain extended operations without relying on constant port access or naval support. Together, these Japanese-supplied vessels transformed how the PCG operates. Instead of reacting sporadically to incidents, it gained the capacity to patrol continuously, respond faster, and remain on station longer. In a maritime environment where challenges often emerge far from shore and unfold over days, not hours, this shift has been critical. The success of these earlier ships is precisely why the expansion to 5 additional Teresa Magbanua-class vessels is being treated not as an experiment, but as the logical next phase in a proven capability pathway. Out at sea, tension in the South China Sea no longer arrives with dramatic declarations or open conflict. It shows up quietly, through close-range maneuvering, blocking actions, water cannons, and prolonged shadowing.
MRRG 4406, you are advised that you are currently sailing inside the Philippines.
For the Philippine Coast Guard, encounters with the China Coast Guard near disputed features have become increasingly frequent and routine. Each incident may appear limited on its own, but together they form a sustained pattern of pressure designed to wear down presence and resolve over time. The imbalance at sea is stark. China operates hundreds of Coast Guard vessels, many of them large, steel-hulled ships capable of long-range, extended offshore operations. In sheer numbers and mass, this fleet outclasses those of Southeast Asian states combined. This numerical dominance allows Beijing to rotate ships constantly, maintain near-permanent coverage, and apply pressure without exhausting its own forces. A classic advantage in gray zone competition.
These dynamics are precisely why modern patrol assets matter. Gray zone tactics thrive where presence is thin, endurance is limited, and response times are slow. Large, long-range patrol vessels disrupt that logic. They stay on station longer, rotate without gaps, and make it harder for coercive behavior to go uncontested. In today's South China Sea, deterrence is not about firepower, it is about persistence, visibility, and the ability to show up every single day. Japan's expanding role in Philippine maritime security reflects a deliberate strategic shift, not a temporary adjustment. Under its 2022 national security strategy, Tokyo moved beyond a traditionally restrained posture toward proactive security support, explicitly linking Japan's own safety to stability in surrounding regions.
Assistance to partners like the Philippines, especially in maritime law enforcement and domain awareness, fits squarely within this framework.
It is defensive in nature, lawful in purpose, and aimed at preventing escalation by strengthening the ability of frontline states to manage pressure on their own terms. Alongside Japan, the United States continues to play a central role. A U.S.-led maritime security program is currently reinforcing the Philippine Coast Guard over a 3-year period, focusing on operational readiness, coordination, and sustainment. This effort complements Japan's hardware-focused contributions by improving how assets are deployed, maintained, and integrated during real-world operations. Equally important are regular joint Coast Guard exercises involving the Philippines, Japan, and the United States. These drills are not symbolic. They build interoperability at the working level, communications, procedures, and command coordination, so that cooperation during incidents is instinctive rather than improvised. Over time, this creates a shared operating culture across maritime agencies. These efforts form a triangular security architecture: quiet, persistent, and practical. Rather than relying on overt military signaling, it emphasizes law enforcement presence, capacity building, and collective resilience. The objective is straightforward: deter coercion, reduce gray zone advantages, and uphold a rules-based maritime order without pushing the region toward open confrontation. The arrival of 5 additional multi-role response vessels, MRRVs, fundamentally changes how the Philippine Coast Guard operates in the West Philippine Sea and across the country's wider maritime zones. Until now, 2 large offshore patrol vessels, no matter how capable, were simply not enough to sustain constant coverage over one of the largest exclusive economic zones in Asia. Gaps were inevitable, rotations were stretched, and presence could not always be maintained where pressure was most intense. With 7 large MRRVs in service, the equation shifts. The PCG will be able to deploy simultaneously across multiple EEZ sectors, maintain continuous presence in contested waters, and still retain flexibility for surveillance, logistics, and search and rescue missions elsewhere. This is less about speed or confrontation, and more about endurance, being there consistently without burning out crews or platforms. In maritime security, consistency is leverage. These patrol vessels play a quiet but decisive role in deterring unlawful maritime claims. By increasing persistent presence, they reinforce the Philippines' ability to exercise and enforce its sovereign rights under international law. Gray zone tactics rely on intimidation, fatigue, and the assumption that smaller forces will eventually pull back. Large, visible, and capable patrol ships disrupt that assumption. While these MRRVs are not combat warships, they do not need to be. Their endurance, sensors, and command and control systems make them formidable tools for maritime law enforcement. Every additional day they remain on station reduces the effectiveness of coercive behavior and raises the cost of pressure tactics without escalating to military confrontation. This procurement aligns directly with the Philippines' broader armed forces modernization program, which increasingly prioritizes Coast Guard capabilities, maritime domain awareness, and interoperability with trusted partners. Strengthening the PCG is not separate from national defense. It is a frontline layer of it, especially in a contested maritime environment. Japan's role has been central to closing long-standing gaps. Through official development assistance and security cooperation frameworks, Tokyo has enabled the acquisition of patrol vessels, coastal radar systems, and sustained training support. This approach complements defense modernization by focusing on platforms and capabilities that are legal, defensive, and stabilizing, exactly where the Philippines needs the most reinforcement.
Strategically, the implications extend well beyond the delivery of 5 ships. The Philippines gains a stronger deterrence posture in the South China Sea, while Japan-Philippines defense cooperation deepens into a mature operational partnership. Together with the United States, these efforts strengthen a regional security architecture built on coordination rather than escalation. This cooperation also sends a signal outward. It encourages complementary support from other partners, whether European maritime contributors, U.S. aviation and logistics programs, or future ASEAN collaborations. More broadly, it offers a model for maritime law enforcement partnerships that other Southeast Asian states could adapt to their own needs. Japan's commitment to provide 5 additional Teresa Magbanua-class patrol vessels marks a major milestone in Philippine maritime capability. It reflects growing regional partnerships, a measured response to rising maritime tensions, and a clear shift toward deeper defense collaboration in the Indo-Pacific. More importantly, it strengthens Manila's ability to uphold sovereignty through presence, professionalism, and persistence, contributing not just to national security, but to long-term stability across contested waters. If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion.
Diego Silang sends a clear message that the Philippines will continue to invest in programs that strengthen maritime domain awareness, enhance deterrence, and improve our ability to uphold the rule of law.
Dumating na ang pinakabagong barkong pandigma ng Pilipinas na tinawag na BRP Diego Silang.
What does a modern warship named after a revolutionary icon mean in today's Indo-Pacific? For the Philippines, it means everything. On December 2nd, 2025, the Philippine Navy commissioned BRP Diego Silang, FFG-07, a missile-armed, radar-equipped, multi-role frigate into a region on the brink of open confrontation.
The BRP Diego Silang has been commissioned to active service and is set to boost the Philippines' maritime domain awareness.
While Vietnam is rolling out Russian-designed corvettes, Australia is deploying nuclear-powered submarines, and China now conducts near-daily incursions into the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines has just answered with steel, strategy, and symbolism. This is no ordinary ship. It's the nation's boldest maritime statement in years, and the timing could not be more dramatic. In November alone, 19 Chinese destroyers and frigates were spotted circling Philippine waters. Filipino sailors are being blasted with water cannons, boxed in by militia ships, and harassed by electronic jamming near key outposts like 2nd Thomas Shoal. Amid this rising pressure, the Diego Silang doesn't just join the fleet, it leads it, symbolizing a long-awaited transition from patrol boats to credible naval deterrence. Named after an 18th century revolutionary who stood against colonizers, BRP Diego Silang now sails into modern-day conflict zones, bearing not just weapons, but history, defiance, and a sovereign flag. In an Indo-Pacific where assertiveness is rewarded and weakness exploited, this warship tells the region, the Philippines will not be pushed around. More than a milestone, this commissioning represents a shift in doctrine. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, is no longer simply reacting. It's recalibrating. It's integrating with US, Japan, and Australian forces. It's preparing for multi-domain warfare with this frigate as a forward shield. In the chessboard of contested waters, this is Manila's queen piece, fast, armed, and built for 21st century maritime defense. Not just a new ship, a new strategy, a new signal, a new era. BRP Diego Silang, FFG-07, enters service at a moment when the Philippines is facing the most intense maritime pressure in its modern history. Over the past year, China has dramatically escalated its presence and activities in the West Philippine Sea, with Philippine surveillance teams detecting 19 Chinese frigates and destroyers operating in or near Manila's exclusive economic zone in November alone. This naval concentration is not routine transit. These vessels linger, maneuver aggressively, and reinforce a broader posture of coercion that includes water cannon attacks on resupply missions, ramming incidents, dangerous close-quarters maneuvers, and the deployment of maritime militia swarms numbering between 40 and 100 vessels at a time.
Even more alarming, Philippine aircraft and ships have reported episodes of communications jamming and electronic interference, signaling that China is increasingly willing to extend gray zone pressure into the electromagnetic domain. In this environment, the Philippines cannot rely on diplomacy or legal victories alone. The 2016 arbitral ruling remains a powerful legal anchor, but Beijing continues to ignore it, making it clear that only credible deterrence can reinforce Manila's maritime rights. A modern frigate like BRP Diego Silang provides exactly that: the ability to track multiple threats simultaneously, extend radar coverage far beyond coastal sensors, operate confidently in high-sea states, and support joint missions with air and naval assets. Deterrence today depends on capability, the capacity to impose costs, maintain persistent presence, and respond decisively when challenged. Without major surface combatants, the Philippines simply cannot enforce its sovereign rights or protect its EEZ against a larger, more aggressive navy. The commissioning of Diego Silang also reflects a deeper transformation within the armed forces of the Philippines. After decades focused on internal security, Manila is now shifting decisively toward external defense, investing in warships, fighter aircraft, missiles, and surveillance networks. The frigate is part of a broader blueprint that includes land-based anti-ship missiles, new corvettes, upgraded maritime patrol assets, and a growing network of alliances with the United States, Japan, and Australia. This is not merely modernization. It is a strategic reorientation shaped by necessity. The Philippines is moving from a reactive, fragmented maritime posture toward a coherent, layered defense strategy designed to protect sea lanes, uphold the arbitral ruling, and ensure that Philippine sovereignty is backed by a force capable of defending it. In this new strategic reality, BRP Diego Silang is more than an addition to the fleet. It is a symbol of a nation adapting to a sharper maritime environment, asserting its rights with modern capability, and preparing for a future in which presence, readiness, and resilience matter more than ever. BRP Diego Silang, FFG-07, represents the newest and most advanced surface combat capability in the Philippine Navy, crafted by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries of South Korea, a shipbuilder renowned for producing some of Asia's most capable naval vessels. As the second ship in the Miguel Malvar class of guided missile frigates, Diego Silang carries forward the design philosophy of its lead ship: fast, lethal, and optimized for multi-domain operations in contested waters. After her delivery to Subic Bay in September 2025, the frigate underwent weeks of rigorous acceptance trials, systems calibration, and crew integration drills to ensure all combat, propulsion, and electronic suites were fully mission-ready. On December 2, 2025, formally commissioned into service, an event that marked not only the birth of a new warship, but the strengthening of a fleet preparing for a dramatically more complex maritime environment. Strategically, BRP Diego Silang is designed as a true multi-role combat platform, giving the Navy capabilities it has long lacked. Built to conduct anti-air warfare through advanced radar and missile systems capable of tracking and engaging incoming aerial threats, anti-surface warfare through precision-guided missiles and naval guns that can respond to hostile ships or gray zone vessels, anti-submarine warfare enabled by hull-mounted sonar, decoys, and shipborne helicopter support, and electronic warfare, allowing the frigate to detect, monitor, and potentially counter attempts at jamming or hostile signal activity, an increasingly common challenge in the West Philippine Sea. In essence, the ship is not just a patrol asset. It is a floating, integrated combat system designed to fight and survive in the modern maritime battle space. With Diego Silang now in the fleet, the Philippines takes another major step toward building a navy that can deter threats, defend maritime rights, and operate with confidence alongside its allies in one of the world's most contested seas. BRP Diego Silang, FFG-07, enters the fleet as the most capable surface combatant the Philippines has ever operated. A 3,200-ton guided missile frigate built for endurance, precision, and survivability in one of the world's most contested maritime zones. Powered by a modern propulsion system that pushes her to 25 knots and gives her a cruising range of 4,500 nautical miles,
she can patrol vast stretches of the Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ, without refueling, a crucial requirement in a nation of 7,641 islands. Her weapon suite finally gives the Philippines a credible deterrent punch. At the heart of her offensive systems lies a 16-cell vertical launch system loaded with VL Mica surface-to-air missiles, giving the Navy its first real medium-range air defense umbrella against aircraft, drones, and precision strike threats. For maritime firepower, it carries 8 Sea Star anti-ship missiles, capable of striking hostile vessels far beyond visual range with sea-skimming trajectories designed to evade radar. Defensively, Diego Silang is protected by the Gukdeniz 35mm close-in weapon system, a fast-firing shield against incoming missiles, drones, and small boat attacks, a critical asset in gray zone encounters. Her 76mm Oto Malara main gun provides versatile fire support, while 2 triple torpedo launchers give her true anti-submarine capability, allowing her to track and engage underwater threats as China increases submarine patrols in the region. All of this is tied together by an advanced AESA radar, a next-generation sensor suite capable of scanning hundreds of targets simultaneously and giving the ship the level of situational awareness needed to operate in complex, congested, and contested seas. In practical terms, BRP Diego Silang becomes Manila's frontline asset for EEZ patrols, anti-smuggling operations, maritime interdiction, high-end surveillance, and combat missions in disputed waters, giving the Philippine Navy a platform finally worthy of a modern external defense strategy.
The commissioning of BRP Diego Silang echoed far beyond the ceremony, amplified by strong statements from the country's top defense leaders.
It is also visible that we are investing in our future and that we are equipping ourselves with the tools to ensure the safety and security of every Filipino.
He showed that this capability upgrade sends a message to the region. The Philippines is no longer a passive observer, but an active defender of its maritime rights. The presence of the flag officer in command, the fleet commander, and the ship's commanding officer, all at the forefront of the ceremony, reinforced a unified front within the military leadership. Their attendance was not just tradition. It was a deliberate signal of institutional solidarity and readiness, showing allies and adversaries alike that the Philippines stands firm, cohesive, and prepared to defend its sovereignty with modern capabilities.
With the support of our allies, our Navy will continue to stand firm in ensuring freedom of navigation is upheld and that no entity undermines the sanctity of international law.
The commissioning of BRP Diego Silang is not an isolated milestone, but a key piece of a sweeping naval modernization roadmap that is rapidly transforming the Philippine Navy into a credible sea power. This frigate completes the pair of advanced surface combatants under the $554 million 2021 contract, following the commissioning of BRP Miguel Malvar, FFG-06, in May 2025, together forming the Navy's new frontline anti-air, anti-surface, and anti-submarine strike capability. Beyond these frigates, the fleet is set to expand with 6 offshore patrol vessels, OPVs, from HD Hyundai under a $537 million program, with PS-20 Raja Sulaiman launched in June 2025 and PS-21 Raja Lakandula in November 2025, and the first operational deliveries expected in 2026. Parallel to this, Manila is planning another 2 frigates under a $585 million package, currently awaiting budget allocation for missiles and ammunition, which would further strengthen the Navy's high-end warfighting fleet. Underpinning all of this is South Korea's growing role as the Philippines' primary naval development partner, supplying frigates, corvettes, OPVs, and missile systems, and gradually evolving the relationship into a long-term, strategic sea power collaboration. Diego Silang's entry into service is therefore not the end of a project, but the beginning of a new chapter in a multi-year modernization effort that aims to give the Philippines the naval strength it has long lacked in defending an increasingly contested maritime domain. BRP Diego Silang matters far beyond its technical specifications because it reshapes the strategic geometry of the West Philippine Sea at a time when Manila urgently needs credible deterrence. Its entry into service strengthens the Philippines' defensive credibility in a region where China's overwhelming naval numbers have long tilted the balance.
giving Manila a modern surface combatant that can finally contest presence, enforce maritime rights, and protect critical sea lanes. The frigate also enhances interoperability with key allies, the United States, Japan, Australia, and South Korea, whose navies operate similar systems and who routinely conduct joint patrols and exercises with the Philippines. This compatibility allows Diego Silang to seamlessly plug into multilateral missions, shared intelligence networks, and coalition maritime operations, something older Philippine vessels simply could not do. Its arrival further signals Manila's intention to evolve from a purely coastal defense force into a navy capable of limited blue water operations, projecting presence farther from shore and sustaining longer, more complex missions. Perhaps most importantly, the commissioning of such an advanced frigate proves that despite fiscal constraints, the Philippines is committed to long-term, consistent military modernization. A message not only to allies seeking a more capable partner, but also to adversaries testing the limits of Philippine resolve. In a contested maritime theater where stability depends on credible presence, Diego Silang's patrols serve as a stabilizing force, improving surveillance coverage and strengthening the country's ability to uphold international law in waters where challenges are increasingly frequent and increasingly dangerous. BRP Diego Silang does not match China's large destroyers in size or firepower, but that was never the point. Its value lies in asymmetric deterrence, the ability to impose real risks on a much larger adversary through precision, mobility, and advanced sensors rather than raw tonnage. For the first time in Philippine naval history, the fleet now fields a frigate equipped with a genuine missile-based air defense system, giving Manila a protective umbrella against hostile aircraft, drones, and incoming threats, a capability that dramatically elevates the Navy's defensive posture. More importantly, Diego Silang extends the Navy's operational reach beyond traditional nearshore patrols, enabling sustained missions deeper into the West Philippine Sea, and allowing Philippine forces to maintain a more persistent presence around contested reefs, shoals, and strategic choke points. Its advanced AESA radar, sonar suite, and electronic warfare systems provide expanded surveillance, precision targeting, and real-time threat detection, exactly the tools needed to monitor Chinese militia swarms, detect submarine activity, and support joint maritime domain awareness with US, Japanese, Australian, and Korean partners. In a region where control is increasingly defined by who can see first, move first, and respond first, Diego Silang gives the Philippines a modern platform that strengthens deterrence, complicates China's operational environment, and signals that Manila's naval transformation is no longer theoretical. It is already underway. The commissioning of BRP Diego Silang marks far more than the arrival of a new warship. It is a decisive leap in the Philippines' long overdue naval modernization and a statement of national resolve in an increasingly contested region. Diego Silang now stands as a living symbol of maritime sovereignty, proof that the Philippine Navy is no longer confined to the image of an underfunded coastal patrol force, but is evolving into a credible regional player armed with modern sensors, missiles, and the will to defend its waters. Its entry into service signals a new chapter, one where Manila refuses to be intimidated, refuses to be sidelined, and refuses to remain technologically outmatched. And the message it sends, to allies, partners, and challengers alike, is unmistakable. The Philippines is preparing, upgrading, and strengthening, and it intends to defend its seas with capability, confidence, and an unwavering sense of purpose. If you like the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues.
The Philippine military launches the BRP Raja Sulaiman, a first of its class offshore patrol vessel.
Dumating na sa Pilipinas ang pinakabagong barko ng Philippine Navy na isang offshore patrol vessel at tatawaging BRP Raja Sulaiman.
What does real sovereignty look like at sea? A flag on a map or steel in the water? This week, the Philippines offered its answer as the Philippine Navy welcomed its newest offshore patrol vessel, the future BRP Raja Sulaiman PS-20. It is not just a ship arriving at port. It is a statement sailing into one of the world's most contested maritime spaces. In an era where gray zone pressure replaces open war, the quiet arrival of a patrol vessel can matter more than 1,000 speeches. Thousands of islands, overstretched sailors, fishermen caught between livelihoods and foreign hulls, and Coast Guard radios crackling with reports that arrive faster than ships can respond.
Lahat ng tauhan magtungo sa paliparan.
For years, the gap between responsibility and capability defined the Philippine Navy's daily reality. BRP Raja Sulaiman changes that equation. As the first of 6 modern OPVs under the country's naval modernization drive, it brings endurance, presence, and persistence. The unglamorous but decisive traits that win maritime contests long before missiles ever matter. Now zoom out and compare. Vietnam has steadily expanded its patrol fleet to harden its maritime posture. Indonesia fields large OPVs to police vast archipelagic waters. Japan deploys high-end Coast Guard cutters as strategic tools, not just law enforcement platforms. Even smaller regional navies are investing in hulls that stay at sea longer, see farther, and respond faster. With Raja Sulaiman, Manila is signaling that it refuses to be the exception, that it, too, understands that maritime power today is built ship by ship, not headline by headline. Named after a pre-colonial leader who defended sovereignty long before modern navies existed, BRP Raja Sulaiman, PS-20, bridges history and hard reality. This vessel is not about escalation. It is about presence. Not about provocation, but protection. In a region where ships often speak louder than diplomats, the Philippines has just added a stronger, steadier voice, and it's only the beginning. The arrival was choreographed like a message, not a routine transit. On January 17, 2026, as the future BRP Raja Sulaiman crossed into Philippine waters, it was met by an unmistakable escort, BRP Jose Rizal, FF-150, the Navy's first missile-capable frigate. In naval terms, this pairing was deliberate. The Philippines' most modern surface combatant welcomed its newest patrol workhorse, signaling continuity between deterrence and day-to-day maritime control. The rendezvous off the coast of Zambales was more than ceremonial. According to naval planners, coordinated escort operations like this are increasingly emphasized as part of fleet readiness, with the Navy now conducting over 30% more multi-ship coordination drills compared to pre-modernization levels. An escort is not about optics alone, one senior naval officer noted during the arrival. It's about command and control discipline, seamanship, and showing that every unit, old or new, plugs into the same operational system. Following the handover at sea, Raja Sulaiman proceeded to Naval Station Jose Andrada, where post-delivery inspections and systems checks began immediately. These procedures are critical. Modern OPVs integrate advanced navigation, sensors, and communication suites that must be calibrated to Philippine operating conditions before commissioning. Navy officials emphasize that early inspections help cut initial deployment delays by up to 25%, allowing new vessels to reach operational status faster than in past acquisition cycles. What stood out most to observers, however, was the seamless coordination between platforms of different classes and roles. As one fleet commander put it, this arrival wasn't just about a new ship. It was about demonstrating that the Philippine Navy is learning to move as a network, escorting, integrating, and operating as one force. In a maritime environment where presence must be constant and credible, that kind of professionalism sends a signal far beyond the pier. At the heart of the Philippines' naval modernization effort sits BRP Raja Sulaiman, not just another hull, but the lead ship of an entirely new offshore patrol force. Classified as an offshore patrol vessel, OPV, under the Raja Sulaiman class, the ship is based on the proven HDP 2400, HDP 2200 plus design, a platform optimized for long-endurance patrols, maritime surveillance, and sustained presence across vast sea spaces. In practical terms, this means the Navy gains a vessel capable of staying at sea for weeks, not days, covering thousands of nautical miles without relying on constant port support. Built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, HHI, in Ulsan, South Korea, one of the world's top naval shipbuilders, PS-20 represents a generational leap in quality and reliability. HHI has delivered more than 100 naval and Coast Guard vessels globally, and Philippine defense planners have repeatedly cited construction consistency and life cycle support as key reasons for the selection.
As one naval official remarked during the handover, this ship is designed for presence. It's built to patrol, to endure, and to be seen. Exactly what an archipelagic navy needs. As the flagship of a 6-vessel OPV class, Raja Suleiman will set the operational standard for the rest of the fleet. Doctrine, training models, and patrol patterns will all be shaped around this platform, effectively anchoring the Navy's shift towards sustained offshore operations rather than reactive coastal response. In comparative terms, this mirrors how Indonesia and Vietnam have used lead OPVs to redefine patrol coverage, or how Japan leverages large cutters as command nodes rather than simple law enforcement ships. The name itself carries weight. Raja Suleiman, the pre-colonial ruler who resisted foreign conquest in the late 16th century, symbolizes sovereignty before treaties, deterrence before alliances. By assigning his name to the Navy's newest patrol flagship, the Philippines is drawing a direct line between historical resistance and modern maritime defense. It's a reminder that while technology evolves, the core mission remains unchanged: to protect national waters, assert presence, and ensure that control at sea is never taken for granted. At first glance, the numbers behind BRP Raja Suleiman tell a quiet story, but read closely, and they reveal why this ship fundamentally changes how the Philippine Navy operates at sea. With a full load displacement of around 2,400 to 2,450 tons and a length of roughly 94 meters, the vessel sits in the sweet spot between endurance and agility. It is large enough to stay on station for long periods, yet nimble enough to respond quickly across the archipelago. A top speed of about 22 knots, paired with an economical 15-knot cruising speed, allows the ship to chase, shadow, or sustain patrols without burning through fuel too fast. A critical factor for a navy covering vast waters with limited assets. Where Raja Suleiman truly stands out is reach and persistence. A range of approximately 5,500 nautical miles and an endurance of up to 30 days at sea mean this OPV is built for presence, not port hopping. In real terms, that's a month of continuous patrols, surveillance, or disaster response without resupply. Exactly the kind of persistence needed in the West Philippine Sea and remote maritime zones where gaps are routinely exploited. The combat and mission systems reinforce this role. Armed with a 76mm naval gun, supported by two 30mm remote weapon systems and heavy machine guns, the ship carries enough firepower to deter and defend without crossing into escalation-heavy warfighting territory. Its advanced radar, navigation, and combat management systems give commanders a clearer picture of what's happening around them, who's approaching, who's lingering, and who doesn't belong. Add to that a stern mission bay and RHIB capability, and the vessel becomes highly modular. Boarding teams, search and rescue crews, or mission-specific payloads can be deployed rapidly as situations evolve. That flexibility is the real strength. BRP Raja Suleiman is optimized not for a single mission, but for the messy reality of modern maritime security, patrolling vast sea lanes, intercepting smugglers, countering piracy, protecting fisheries, conducting search and rescue, and delivering humanitarian assistance during disasters. This is where constabulary duties and defense roles blur, and where this OPV thrives. In a maritime environment where threats don't arrive neatly labeled, the Navy now has a platform designed to adapt day after day, mission after mission, without leaving the fight or the people behind. The arrival of BRP Raja Suleiman is not just a fleet update, it is a strategic recalibration. At a time when activity by foreign naval and Coast Guard vessels in the West Philippine Sea remains persistently high, this OPV gives the Philippine Navy something it has long needed: credible, continuous presence. In maritime security, showing up matters, and staying matters even more. Raja Suleiman is designed to do both. With its extended range and endurance, the vessel dramatically strengthens Philippine presence across the Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ, reducing patrol gaps that have historically been exploited by illegal actors and gray zone operations. Instead of reactive deployments after incidents make headlines, the Navy can now sustain forward patrols, monitoring, documenting, and deterring activities before they escalate. This shift from episodic response to persistent coverage is a quiet but powerful change in the balance at sea. The ship also boosts the country's ability to confront illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and transnational maritime crime,
challenges that cost the Philippines billions annually in lost resources and livelihoods. Equipped with modern sensors, RHIBs, and boarding capabilities, Raja Suleiman enables faster interception, evidence collection, and coordination with Coast Guard and civilian agencies. For coastal communities and fishermen, that translates into protection that is felt, not just promised.
Beyond enforcement, the OPV strengthens the protection of commercial sea lines and national maritime rights, ensuring safer passage for trade and energy flows that underpin the Philippine economy. In strategic terms, Raja Suleiman sits at the intersection of law enforcement and defense. Visible enough to deter coercion, restrained enough to avoid escalation. In a contested maritime environment where presence is policy, this vessel gives Manila a steadier hand and a stronger voice at sea. The arrival of BRP Raja Suleiman is inseparable from a much bigger story, the long-awaited transformation of the Philippine Navy itself. Acquired under the revised Armed Forces of the Philippines modernization program, Horizon 2, the vessel represents a decisive break from decades of reliance on aging, hand-me-down platforms, some dating back to the World War II era. For the first time in generations, the Navy is rebuilding its patrol force around modern, long-range, purpose-built ships, designed not just to sail, but to stay. The OPV program marks a structural shift. By expanding the offshore patrol fleet from 11 to 17 vessels, Manila is prioritizing endurance, presence, and coverage over sheer numbers of lightly equipped hulls. This evolution reflects hard lessons learned in recent years. Sovereignty cannot be enforced by ships that cannot reach contested areas, remain on station, or operate safely in demanding conditions. Equally important, the program highlights deepening defense cooperation with South Korea, combining shipbuilding expertise with technology transfer and joint training, strengthening local capacity alongside fleet growth. Once commissioned, BRP Raja Suleiman is expected to become a regular fixture in both littoral and offshore patrol zones, including areas of heightened sensitivity. Rather than operating in isolation, the OPV will integrate tightly with the Navy's growing surface fleet, working alongside platforms such as BRP Jose Rizal and its sister OPVs to form layered patrol and response packages. The ship's adaptability allows it to pivot seamlessly between roles, conducting routine sovereignty patrols, responding to maritime incidents, or joining joint and multilateral exercises with allied navies. This interoperability focus is deliberate. Modern naval operations are rarely solo efforts, and Raja Suleiman is being positioned as a connector, able to plug into regional exercises, shared surveillance efforts, and coordinated responses during both peacetime and periods of elevated tension. The OPV program was formalized in 2022, when the Philippine government signed a contract with Hyundai Heavy Industries valued at approximately 30 billion pesos for 6 vessels. Delivery is scheduled between 2026 and 2028, ensuring a steady, phased enhancement of naval capability rather than a one-off upgrade. Leading the class is BRP Raja Suleiman, followed by Raja Lakandula, Raja Humaban, Sultan Kudarat, Datu Marikudo, and Datu Sikatuna. Names that deliberately anchor modern naval power in pre-colonial history and sovereignty. Together, these ships will replace outdated patrol platforms while dramatically expanding the Navy's ability to maintain sustained presence across critical maritime zones. Regionally, the impact goes beyond hardware. Enhanced patrol capability functions as both deterrence and reassurance, deterring illegal incursions and maritime crime, while reassuring partners that the Philippines can meaningfully contribute to shared maritime security. The OPVs strengthen cooperation with ASEAN neighbors and allied navies, supporting joint patrol concepts, exercises, and information sharing without escalating into overt militarization. In a broader Indo-Pacific context, this investment signals intent. Manila is not outsourcing its maritime security. It is building the capacity to uphold maritime order and sovereignty independently, while remaining interoperable with partners. That balance matters in a region where miscalculation is as dangerous as weakness. The arrival of BRP Raja Suleiman is a defining moment, not because it is the biggest or most heavily armed ship in the fleet, but because it represents a new operational mindset. As the first of 6 OPVs, it lays the foundation for a Navy built around persistence, professionalism, and credible presence.
Symbolically and strategically, the vessel stands for enhanced maritime defense, an unambiguous commitment to sovereignty, and a platform for deeper regional partnerships. As additional OPVs arrive through 2028, the Philippine Navy will not just be larger, it will be more resilient, more visible, and far better prepared to operate in an increasingly contested maritime environment.
If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion. While the South China Sea keeps getting louder and more crowded, Manila just answered with steel, sensors, and serious intent. This is not business as usual, a Philippine defense official said after the latest signing, and they weren't exaggerating. So here's the real question that makes everyone sit up. When a middle power quietly drops over $500 million on new warships, what exactly are they preparing for? Just days before the end of 2025, as most of the world was winding down for the holidays, the Philippines made a move that barely made noise globally, but echoed loudly across Asia's naval circles. Manila signed a $550 million plus contract with South Korea's HD Hyundai Heavy Industries to build 2 additional Miguel Malvar-class guided missile frigates, sleek, modern warships designed not for parades, but for contested waters. No speeches, no theatrics. Just a contract, a pen, and a very clear message. The Philippine Navy is done being undergunned. To understand why this matters, think back a decade. The Philippine Navy once relied on World War II-era ships and hand-me-down platforms, vessels better suited for training than deterrence. Today, that image is history. These new frigates are not symbolic upgrades. They are frontline combatants equipped for air defense, anti-surface warfare, and networked operations. In plain terms, they allow the Navy to stay on station longer, see farther, and respond faster in waters where hesitation invites pressure. The timing is everything. The South China Sea has become a daily stress test for Philippine sovereignty, from close-range encounters to gray zone coercion. China's expanding presence has forced Manila to confront an uncomfortable truth. Diplomacy without credible naval power has limits. These frigates are that missing muscle. They don't escalate tensions, but they change the calculus, making it clear that Philippine patrols are no longer soft targets. There's also a bigger story hiding beneath the headlines. By doubling down on South Korean shipbuilders, the Philippines is following a path already proven by regional players like Indonesia and Thailand. Countries that modernize their fleets steadily, platform by platform, rather than chasing flashy one-off purchases. It's old-school strategy, honestly. Build slowly, build reliably, and build ships that sailors can actually sustain in wartime. Bottom line? This isn't just about 2 warships. It's about a Navy that has learned from its past, read the room in the Indo-Pacific, and decided that credibility at sea is no longer optional. The Philippines didn't shout this move, it signed it. And in geopolitics, that's often when the most serious shifts begin. For decades, the Philippine Navy lived with a hard reality that rarely made headlines. It was a force built more for presence than power. Much of the fleet consisted of aging donated ships, former Coast Guard cutters, and lightly armed patrol craft, useful for constabulary duties, disaster response, and flag showing, but fundamentally limited once operations stretched beyond coastal waters. Blue water combat, the ability to deploy, fight, and sustain operations far from home ports, remained more aspiration than capability. That picture only began to change in the early 2020s. The arrival of the Jose Rizal-class frigates in 2020 to 2021 marked a turning point, giving the Navy its first genuinely modern surface combatants with guided missiles, sensors, and command systems fit for regional operations. Still, those ships were a beginning, not an endpoint. The subsequent induction of the Miguel Malvar-class frigates pushed the Navy further up the capability ladder, introducing more advanced combat systems, improved survivability, and better integration with allied and joint forces. In practical terms, these vessels signaled that the Philippine Navy was no longer confined to coastal defense. It was learning how to operate in contested, open ocean environments. This transformation did not happen in isolation. It sits squarely within the Armed Forces of the Philippines' modernization program, a long-running, often uneven effort to move the country's military away from Cold War-era platforms and toward forces that can operate across air, sea, land, cyber, and information domains. For the Navy, modernization has meant prioritizing fewer but far more capable ships, accepting that quality and endurance matter more than raw hull numbers in today's maritime security environment. Seen in this context, the recent frigate orders are not a sudden splurge or a reactionary purchase. They are the continuation of a deliberate shift, from a Navy once dependent on second-hand assets to one steadily building a core of modern, interoperable warships. It's a classic, almost traditional approach to force building, slow, expensive, and disciplined, but ultimately the only way a maritime nation can protect its interests in an increasingly unforgiving sea. This is where the headline money meets hard capability, and the numbers tell a story Manila wants its neighbors to read carefully. The frigate acquisition project, Full Complement Phase 2, is not a token upgrade or a placeholder deal. Valued at around $550 million, the contract was signed with HD Hyundai Heavy Industries in late December 2025, locking in the construction of 2 additional Miguel Malvar-class guided missile frigates. At this price point, the Philippines isn't buying hulls for show. It's buying combat power designed to last decades. Both ships fall into the 3,200-ton class, a sweet spot for modern frigates, large enough to carry serious sensors and weapons, yet compact enough to operate efficiently across the archipelago and into the wider Western Pacific. Built by South Korea's most experienced naval shipbuilder, these frigates draw directly from HD HHI's HDF 3200 design, a platform already proven in export markets. That matters because reliability and sustainment, not just raw firepower, are what separate paper navies from real ones. As for timing, Manila is playing the long game. The contract was officially signed on December 26, 2025, with an expected delivery window by 2029. That timeline reflects disciplined procurement rather than urgency-driven shortcuts. These ships are being built not just for today's tensions, but for the strategic environment of the 2030s, a period where maritime power in Southeast Asia will matter more than ever. In short, this order isn't flashy, and that's precisely the point. It's measured, methodical, and unmistakably serious. 2 more frigates, yes, but more importantly, 2 more pieces in a navy that is finally being built for the world it actually operates in, not the one it used to hope for. This is where the purchase stops being about ships and starts being about strategy. On paper, the Miguel Malvar-class frigates are steel, sensors, and missiles. In reality, they are tools for changing behavior at sea, both adversary and allied. For a navy that once struggled to maintain persistent presence beyond its coastlines, these vessels fundamentally reset what the Philippines can credibly do in its own waters. First, the impact on maritime defense is immediate and tangible. With the endurance and combat systems these frigates bring, the Philippine Navy can patrol deeper into its exclusive economic zone and the contested West Philippine Sea without relying on luck or escorts. These ships are not just observers, they are deterrent assets, capable of responding across the full spectrum, from air threats to surface combatants to submarines. As Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad previously emphasized, when earlier frigates entered service, they add to the capital ships, capable of patrolling up to our EEZ and beyond. That single phrase, "and beyond," captures the strategic shift: presence without vulnerability. The regional context makes this expansion unavoidable rather than optional. Near flashpoints such as Scarborough Shoal, Chinese maritime and Coast Guard vessels have normalized close-in operations, probing reactions and testing limits. In this environment, lightly armed patrol ships invite pressure. Modern frigates complicate it. They don't escalate encounters,
but they raise the cost of coercion, forcing any opposing force to factor in air defense radars, anti-ship missiles, and ASW coverage before acting aggressively. There's also a quieter, more diplomatic signal embedded in the order. By deepening defense ties with South Korea, Manila is reinforcing a networked security posture rather than a single ally dependence.
Seoul's growing role as a supplier of advanced naval platforms reflects a shared strategic outlook, one that values reliability, interoperability, and long-term sustainment over headline-grabbing hardware. For the Philippines, this partnership strengthens resilience. For South Korea, it cements its position as a serious Indo-Pacific defense exporter. These frigates do more than fill gaps in the fleet. They anchor Philippine claims with capability, reassure partners that Manila is investing in its own defense, and quietly remind Beijing that the era of uncontested pressure is narrowing. No dramatic speeches required, just ships that can stay, see, and, if necessary, fight.
Zoom out from Manila for a second, and the bigger picture snaps into focus. Across Southeast Asia, navies are rearming, not for prestige, but for survival in an increasingly crowded maritime neighborhood. Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia have all pushed ahead with frigates, submarines, and maritime patrol assets, quietly accepting the same reality. The South China Sea is no longer permissive space. Against this backdrop, the Philippines' frigate expansion isn't an outlier, it's overdue alignment with regional trends. Even so, the imbalance is stark. Chinese surface combatants routinely outnumber ASEAN navies operating in disputed waters, and they do so with layers of air cover, long-range sensors, and logistical depth. Beijing's advantage isn't just numbers, it's persistence. The ability to rotate ships continuously keeps pressure constant, wearing down smaller fleets through sheer presence. For years, the Philippine Navy had little choice but to absorb that pressure with limited means.
This is where the new Miguel Malvar-class frigates matter most. They close the most dangerous gaps. Improved air defense reduces vulnerability to aircraft and drones. Anti-submarine warfare capability counters a domain where smaller navies often lag. Greater endurance and modern sensors allow these ships to stay on station longer and operate with better situational awareness than legacy platforms ever could. In short, they don't match China ship for ship, but they ensure Philippine vessels are no longer operating blind or exposed. Still, realism matters. Even with these additions, the Philippine fleet remains smaller and less heavily armed than China's Navy, and likely will for the foreseeable future. Analysts are blunt about this. Frigates alone don't win long-term maritime competitions. Sustained modernization, more surface combatants, improved ISR, undersea capabilities, and tighter integration with allies is the only viable path forward.
That's the quiet takeaway from this comparison. The Philippines isn't chasing parity, it's chasing credibility. And in today's regional naval balance, credibility, the ability to impose costs and stay present, is often enough to change behavior. These frigates don't end the asymmetry, but they finally ensure Manila is playing the game with the right pieces on the board.
Behind the missiles and radar arrays, there's a quieter story here, one about money, priorities, and industrial ambition. A $550 million frigate deal isn't pocket change for any middle-income country, and in the Philippine context, it signals something important. Defense spending is no longer being treated as a discretionary extra, but as core national infrastructure. This contract fits squarely within the AFP modernization program, which is structured to spread costs over multiple years, precisely so big-ticket capabilities like warships don't crowd out everyday military readiness. In other words, this isn't a budget shock, it's a planned investment. That matters politically. Large naval acquisitions tend to attract scrutiny, but framing them under long-term modernization allows Manila to justify the expense as protection of trade routes, fisheries, and energy resources, not just military hardware. In a country where maritime security is directly tied to economic survival, frigates become less about war and more about guarding the nation's future earnings.
Industrially, the impact is more indirect, but no less strategic. Yes, the ships themselves are being built in South Korea, reflecting the reality that advanced frigate construction demands mature shipyards and specialized supply chains. But that doesn't mean the Philippines is standing still. Parallel efforts are underway to strengthen local shipbuilding, repair, and maintenance capacity, ensuring these vessels can be sustained at home over their service life. Maintenance, refits, and systems support are where real, long-term value is captured and where domestic industry can grow. Over time, this approach follows a familiar, almost traditional model. Buy complex platforms from experienced builders first, then gradually localize support, upgrades, and eventually construction of less complex hulls. It's how several regional navies, including South Korea itself decades ago, built their maritime industries from the ground up. The frigate deal, then, isn't just a defense purchase. It's a stepping stone toward industrial confidence at sea, one contract at a time.
Crew training and logistics remain the first real test of this modernization push. Advanced combat management systems and precision weapons don't run themselves. They demand skilled crews, technicians, and commanders who can operate and maintain them under pressure. That means long-term investment in training pipelines, overseas courses, and doctrine, not just one-time spending when the ships arrive. Operational readiness is the next hurdle. Modern frigates are expensive to keep at sea, and maintenance, upgrades, and life cycle costs can quietly strain the defense budget over time. The strategic value of these ships depends on availability. A frigate tied up in port too often weakens deterrence just as much as not having it at all.
Defense analysts broadly view this order as part of a wider regional trend. Across Southeast Asia, militaries are shifting away from lightly armed patrol vessels toward robust, multi-role surface combatants that can operate in contested environments. The Philippines' frigate expansion fits squarely into this pattern, reflecting a maritime security now requires credible combat capability, not just presence. The $550 million frigate order marks a defining moment in the Philippines' naval modernization journey. By extending patrol reach, strengthening deterrence, and adding true multi-role combat power, these warships will shape Manila's maritime defense posture well into the 2030s. Even as regional tensions persist and capability gaps remain, the direction is clear. The Philippine Navy is no longer standing still. It is steadily building the tools it needs to defend its waters in a far more demanding strategic environment.
If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion. The West Philippine Sea has seen tension before, but nothing quite like this moment. As dawn breaks over contested waters, Philippine and U.S. warships slice through the waves in tight formation, their radars sweeping, their aircraft carving arcs across the sky. It is a scene that feels less like routine patrol and more like a declaration. The Allies are no longer watching events unfold from a distance. They are now inside the battle space. For months, China has pushed pressure to unprecedented levels. Between 50 and 200 Chinese vessels swarm key reefs at any given time. Bajo de Masinloc, Ayungin Shoal, Sabina, Iroquois. High-pressure water cannons slam into Philippine supply boats. Ramming attempts grow bolder. Lasers and military-grade flares threaten aircraft in international airspace. And beneath it all, China's upgraded electronic warfare systems, new jammers, stronger sensors, more aggressive emissions stretch their reach across the Spratlys. This is the environment in which the 9th Philippine U.S. Joint Maritime Patrol launches, and that is precisely why it matters more than the previous 8. The patrol is not a symbolic flyby or a diplomatic gesture. It is a calibrated, deliberate move at the moment of Beijing's heaviest coercion in decades. Regional militaries are already warning. China's posture is the most aggressive we've seen in a generation. Against this backdrop, the 9th MCA becomes a turning point. It signals a shift in alliance behavior, from reactive statements to proactive presence, from reassurance to deterrence, from monitoring Chinese activity to challenging it directly in contested waters. In short, this patrol marks the moment the U.S.-Philippines alliance stops merely responding to pressure and starts shaping the battle space itself. The modern chapter of Philippine-U.S. maritime cooperation didn't begin with bold naval maneuvers,
but with a simple strategic need: to see clearly in a contested sea. Under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, the two allies launched the Maritime Cooperative Activities, MCA, to close critical detection gaps across the West Philippine Sea. These early patrols were built for one purpose: situational awareness. They aimed to strengthen maritime domain awareness, MDA, track illegal or coercive behavior inside the Philippine EEZ, and ensure that Manila could document, verify, and respond to what was happening in its own waters. But as tensions rose, so did the complexity of the patrols. The first few MCAs were quiet, almost cautious, largely focused on ISR missions, maritime monitoring, and routine presence operations. Then they evolved. Mid-stage patrols introduced coordinated sailing, tighter integration of air assets, and real-time drone feeds that provided a unified picture of the maritime environment. What began as surveillance gradually shifted into combined operations, more public, more visible, and unmistakably more assertive. This evolution didn't happen in a vacuum. It was shaped by a rapidly deteriorating security environment. China intensified its gray zone pressure with unprecedented scale and persistence. At Ayungin Shoal alone, up to 40 or more militia vessels loitered for weeks, forming a blockade-like presence. Philippine crews suffered repeated injuries from high-pressure water cannon attacks. By the end of 2024, Manila had logged over 140 harassment incidents, a record-breaking surge that signaled a deliberate campaign of coercion. Even regional partners, usually restrained in their public messaging, began issuing unusually sharp warnings. Japan, Australia, and others described China's posture as destabilizing and increasingly aggressive, showing a shared concern that the status quo in the South China Sea was shifting in dangerous ways. As one senior Philippine maritime official put it, China's actions are no longer routine, they are systematic. It is against this backdrop of escalating pressure and evolving alliance cooperation that the 9th MCA emerges, not as another patrol in a series, but as a strategic turning point.
The 9th Philippines, U.S. Joint Maritime Patrol, was fundamentally different from its predecessors because it marked the moment the alliance shifted from cooperative presence to coordinated deterrence. Fielding its most integrated force to date, the Philippines deployed a Jose Rizal-class frigate, a Yap-class corvette, and ISR aircraft, while the United States brought an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, a P-8A Poseidon, and full logistical support, all operating for the first time on a shared tactical picture with synchronized tracking, data-linked sensors, and a fused surveillance grid that allowed real-time awareness across the contested battle space. Unlike earlier MCAs that remained at the periphery of tension points, this patrol deliberately crossed China's most sensitive pressure zones: Scarborough Shoal, Ayungin Shoal, and Rosul Reef, areas heavily patrolled by Chinese Coast Guard, militia swarms, and naval escorts, where harassment, ramming attempts, and water cannon attacks against Philippine vessels are routine.
They hit!
By navigating these hotspots as a united formation, the Allies were not only asserting freedom of navigation inside the Philippine EEZ, but directly challenging Beijing's unlawful 9-line claims at the precise locations where China tries hardest to enforce them. The operation's objectives reflected this new posture: to stress test EDCA-enabled command and control networks, evaluate how fast Philippines and U.S. sensors could merge tracking data, deepen Philippine maritime situational awareness through P-8A surveillance, and demonstrate the ability to maintain presence despite Chinese coercion. Yet the most powerful message came through action, not rhetoric. The deliberate tempo of joint sailing, coordinated air-sea patterns, and persistent ISR orbits made clear that the alliance is transitioning toward routine, crisis-ready operations, and that every act of Chinese pressure now risks triggering not a unilateral Philippine response, but a coordinated, immediate show of allied military presence, right where it matters most.
For the Philippines, the 9th Joint Patrol matters because it delivers immediate operational benefits and long-term strategic momentum